that which is between the heavens and the earth. Now, what does it mean? Subhanallah. When we say Subhanallah, Subhanallah means to glorify Allah, and that Allah is purified from anything that does not befit Him, of defects, of imperfections, of flaws, or any likeness to the creation. Right? So Allah is far removed from every fault, whether in His or shortcoming or defect or imperfection, whether in His asma, His names, whether in His attributes, His sifat, whether in His af'al, His actions, or whether in His ahkam, in His laws. In all of these, Allah is free and pure and far removed from that there should be any defect in any of this. So we will not find in His names any name that comprises any deficiency or any shortcoming. And that's why we see in the Quran, وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. وَلِلَّهِ الْأَسْمَاءُ الْحُسْنَى. All His names are husna. All His names are beautiful. There is no, name which has any defect. And then He said, likewise, you will not find in His sifat an attribute that comprises any deficiency. And that's why Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. وَلِلَّهِ الْمَثَلُ الْأَعْلَى. To Allah belongs the loftiest example. To Allah belongs the loftiest example. Meaning the loftiest similitude in terms of His attributes. And then He said that after He said, لِلَّذِينَ لَا يُؤْمِنُونَ بِالْآخِرَةِ مَثَلُ السَّوْءِ. To those who do not believe in the hereafter is the most evil example. So Allah Azza wa Jal, He has the most perfect description from every single angle, and He also has the perfection which is far removed from every blemish or fault in His actions, right? So not just in His names, but also in His attributes. Likewise, even in His actions, when it comes to His actual actions, there is no fault or blemish or flaw in His actions, right? So whatever He does, whatever actions He does in the creation, there is no aib, there is no frivolity, there is no li'b, and there's no lahu, right? There is no frivolity or idleness or something just done in jest. Rather, everything we find, there is wisdom in everything in Allah's creation and in all of Allah's actions, right? So unlike the people of disbelief who see the world as just idle pastime and frivolity, and because it's meaningless and it's purposeless and there isn't any direction or purpose, then they just see the dunya as play and pastime and sport and frivolity, right? There's no wisdom. Whereas when we look at every single thing that we see, when we look at Allah's creation, when we look at what He has created, we see order, beauty, regularity. We see wisdoms in everything, not only in what He created, but also in what He decrees, or what He decrees to happen, and everything that follows on from that. So, in other words, even in Allah's actions, we see hikmah, right? So, in His names, there is no naqs or aib, flaw or deficiency. In His attributes, they have the loftiest example, right? There is no naqs or aib. In His actions, there is no frivolity or idleness or something without purpose. Rather, in all of His actions, there is actual wisdom in whatever He creates. sometimes these people, they say, they might say sometimes, they might find a creature from the creatures of Allah, and they might say, well, look at how Allah created this creature. Look, its legs are so weak, and or its eyes really bad. But this is ignorance on their behalf, because this is something that Allah intended to put in His creation, right? Many different types of beasts, some that crawl, some that have 2 legs, some that have 4 legs, some that slither like the snake, some that, then He creates, things which don't have any vision, but they have powerful sound, like a bat, for example. Then He has the opposite. Then there are some which have tremendous vision, like certain birds. They have they can see for miles. The vision is so powerful, like certain eagles, whatever it might be. And then within man, there are many things he has which can be, relatively speaking, can be considered to be a flaw, a weakness, as it relates, for example, let's say, to an elephant or a rhinoceros in terms of the actual physical strength. But in other respects, he has something which is more of a perfection. The faculty of thought, the faculty of this. Right? So what these people do is these people of disbelief, and they'll go and they start looking at Allah's creation and find a creature, or they'll find something in the human, and they'll say, well, look at this. This shows a really bad design, because... And this is from their ignorance, because this is something Allah intended to create. Allah created man in the most perfect way for the purpose for which he was created. Right? So Allah intended for man that he have both strength and weakness, sickness and health, life and death, happiness and sadness, right? And that he feel pain and pleasure. Pain and pleasure. So Allah Azza wa Jal created him in such a way where he is subject to these things, and he is subject to these meanings, so that through that he comes to recognize the oneness of Allah and the greatness of Allah. Right? So it's not that man has been made the perfect creation where he has now vision like nothing else and power like nothing else, and no. Right? This is not. So whatever limitations man has, that's not a flaw in what Allah created. That is simply the wisdom of Allah in what He created, for the purpose for which He created man in this case, and then in everything else. Right? So He gave us things, minerals in which there is strength, power. He gave us other things in which there is flexibility and malleability. Every single thing He created for a purpose and a wisdom. There is nothing frivolous in anything that Allah created, nor in anything that He does. Right? So we have Allah's names, we have Allah's attributes, we have Allah's actions, and obviously there's also Allah's law. وَكَذَلِكَ أَحْكَامُهُ لَا تَجِدُ فِيهَا عَيْبًا وَلَا نَقْصًا. Likewise, in the rulings of Allah, in the laws, the ahkam of Allah, there is no aib, there is no naqs, there is no flaw, there is no deficiency. Just as Allah the Exalted said, أَلَيْسَ اللَّهُ بِأَحْكَمِ الْحَاكِمِينَ. Is not Allah the wisest of those who judge, the wisest of the judges? And likewise, He, Allah Azza wa Jal, He said, أَفَحُكْمَ الْجَاهِلِيَّةِ يَبْغُونَ. Do they seek the judgment of Jahiliyyah? Is it the judgment of Jahiliyyah that they seek? وَمَنْ أَحْسَنُ مِنَ اللَّهِ حُكْمًا لِقَوْمٍ يُوقِنُونَ. And who is better than Allah? Who is better than Allah in judgment for a people who have certainty? So, likewise, in the ahkam of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, there is no aib and there is no naqs. There is no deficiency, there is no flaw. So in all of the ahkam of Allah, so just like we see, in fact, when you see all of the people of misguidance and the people of disbelief, whether they be from the people of kufr, or even from amongst the mubtadi'ah, the misguided innovators who find fault. So for example, you will see the people of kalam finding fault with the names of Allah, that they reject the names of Allah. Or you may see, like the Yahud, for example, find fault with some of the names of Allah. And then you'll find them finding fault with the attributes of Allah. And then you see them finding fault with the actions of Allah, meaning what Allah decrees to happen in His creation. And then you also see them finding fault with the ahkam, with the laws of Allah Azza wa Jal. But there is perfection in the law of Allah. And all of the law of Allah is coherent. There's no contradiction between one law and another law. Rather, all of the law of Allah, the laws of Allah, they work together in order to establish justice and to protect the beneficial interests of mankind. Right? And we looked at this. We had a series of lessons when we looked at the 5 necessities of religion, the protection of life, the protection of religion, and then life, and then property, and then the self and lineage. The 5 necessities, we looked at that, and we spoke about how the law works, the Sharia, and how it is a perfect law. Different laws support other laws. There's no conflict or at all. So for example, if Allah Azza wa Jal prohibits a thing, He prohibits intoxication for the protection of intellect, then things which intoxicate will be forbidden. The Sharia has come to prohibit intoxicants, to protect the mind. And not only will it protect by prohibiting intoxication of various sorts, which is alcohol and drugs and things like that, but it will also prohibit the ways that lead to that. So you are prohibited from sitting at a table where alcohol is consumed, because that now is an introduction. It's an introduction to you to be subjected to being put to trial. And the same with zina, fornication, right? It is prohibited, and the things that lead to that thing are also prohibited. Being alone with a foreign woman, and things like that. So the law, it is perfect. There is no inherent contradiction. And in contrast, when you look at the laws of the people of disbelief, you find total blatant contradictions that don't make any sense, and you have to question. So the law of Allah, within it is wisdom, al-hikmah wal-aql, the intellect. It makes absolute sense to the intellect, right? Whereas when you look at the law of the people of disbelief, like for example, they will allow alcohol to be sold where a handful of people make billions. They make billions out of this industry at the expense of people's wealth. And then the law, the government, will put regulations in place to deal with the aftermath of the destruction caused by by alcohol, right? So alcohol will be allowed in principle, but then you will just regulate the aftermath, the destruction, and you try to minimize it by putting regulations in place to minimize the destruction, right? And then so now it's like a conflict. There's a conflict between between what's good for the people what's good for the profiteers who profiteer from this vice, and then what the regulators are trying to achieve. Like, it's all a contradiction. It's a contradiction. It doesn't make any sense. The same thing with fornication. All the industries of dating, and so on the one hand, you allow dating, then on the other hand, single mothers with children with no fathers in broken homes. So now you have welfare programs to cater for them, and so that's money being taken out from the economy to be given. Like, the whole thing is just a mess. It's just a total mess. It doesn't make any sense. And so this is what happens when you abandon the guidance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are going to be led into blatant contradiction. And the law, one part of the law is in conflict with another part of the law. The objective of one law is in conflict with the objective of another law. It doesn't make any sense. And that's why this is a very difficult topic, especially when it comes to the hudud, to the prescribed punishments. And this is one of the things that these people use in order to attack the Sharia, and by which property is protected, life is protected, and it brings genuine. That's another topic. We won't go into a side discussion into that. But coming back to where we were, so what did we say? We said the names of Allah, asma of Allah, the sifat of Allah, the af'al, right? The actions of Allah, meaning what Allah does in His creation, the decrees of Allah, things that happen, calamities, hardships. Allah raises some people, lowers other people, guides some people, misguides other people, enriches some people, impoverishes other people. These are things which happen on a day in, day out, basis. These are all the actions of Allah. In all of that, there is absolute wisdom, right? There's no aib or naqs, right? It is all wisdom. And likewise, in the ahkam of Allah, in the laws of Allah, there is wisdom. So then the Shaykh goes on to say, وَقَوْلُهُ صلى الله عليه وسلم وسبحان الله والحمد لله تملأان أو تملأ ما بين السماوات والأرض. Right, so here the meaning means that subhanallah, alhamdulillah, they fill that which is between the heavens and the earth, because they comprise two things. They